A Nephilim spider joining the monsoon banquet. She's caught a tiger butterfly. And he is utterly toxic. Butterfly predators need to learn this.
System error, shutting down.
Walk, don't run, use the handrails. Walk, don't run, use the handrails.
Neon Temple simulation reboot in progress. Live stream initiated. Stabilizing environment.
Yep, ready when you are. We're live? Say again?
Just now, yeah.
Woo! I guess I'm live. Hey, hello guys. So it is just now after 7, so if you're currently at this link and you would like to register and participate, it should work for you now. Just click the button that says free, and that'll give you access to the course. For those watching online, hi, thanks for joining us. I don't know why you're not here trying to follow a hands-on workshop, but maybe I'll catch you next time. Quick news updates. I'm trying to do it really fast because this is a whole lot of content to cram into a couple hours. This week, obviously, it's me. We're doing hands-on stuff. We're going to play with some C2s. We're going to do a little thread emulation, CTI fun. Next week, if you've thought about making a startup or creating your own business in general, or you're just curious Bryson Board's going to come in and do a talk for us covering all of that. He's a pretty knowledgeable resource to have around when it comes to this kind of a thing. He's made multiple startups himself, a nonprofit, he runs a couple podcasts. The man's done a lot. So it's a good resource to pick his brain if it's something you're interested in. After that, we've got hacker boxes, right? Yep. So all those hacker boxes you've heard us talking about in the Discord chat here for a while should be here. They will be accessible. Cool. And we will start building some fun stuff. After that, I think we've got a gap, right? Last Thursday of the month?
I'll check.
No.
Chris might know better than me. I haven't looked at the calendar in...
Oh, the BC security workshop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the week after that, BC security guys are coming in. That workshop is happening, so if you have not registered yet, you need to do so now. If you do not register for the workshop, you will not be allowed in here on those days. Make sense? If you register while you're standing outside the door, cool, I'll let you in. Otherwise, you're not going to come in here and just kind of skate along and ride it.
I'll tase you.
With that, John will tase you. There you go. With that being said, any save rounds, any news we need to tell them about?
No.
If you haven't seen it yet, transparency report is in the guild chat in Glasnost.
Yeah, I saw that. That only took
See,
3 fucking months.
if you guys like that, make sure you let us know. If you want to see something different, let us know. We'll figure out what we can do. I'm going to make Chris have to move this camera a lot tonight.
Okay.
But cool. So with all of that being said, let's dive into it. A little background on this workshop. The guys at Adversary Village asked me to put this one on after talking to me at HackSpaceCon this year. The kicker was I had a 2-hour window to teach about a half-day class. So this is going to be kind of like an inch deep, a mile wide. But it should work a little better here with you guys. It should be a lot more stable because we control the internet and it actually works. And all in all, I think this will be pretty fun. Is anybody having issues going to that link and registering? Cool. This is not hard. Just do what I want you to do. Don't need that. So here's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Step one, we actually have to determine what our threat is or define our threat. How are we going to emulate something that we have no idea what it is? Where this is going to kind of break down is we need to take a look into the mirror, see what we determine would be a threat for us, kind of do a bit of research, and then use that information to do some fun stuff. From there, all that research we're going to do, we're going to try to make it actionable. We're going to play with some tools, and hopefully you guys might get your first shell on a host, throw some implants, have some fun if you've never done that before. Then lastly, I'll follow up with some quick tips, tools, things like that you can utilize. So show of hands before we dive in. Who in here's never used a C2 platform before? Cool, so y'all get new experience tonight. For those of you that are a bit of an old hat, I'm sorry, this is gonna be probably a little lame for you, but you might pick up something new anyway. We'll see what happens. So threat emulation 101, what are we really talking about here? Overall, the end goal is to emulate all of these crazy real-world cyber threats we hear about in the news constantly now, but doing it for purposes of good. We're doing this to evaluate our organizations, determine if we've got any gaps in our security posture, problems with our toolings, detections, you name it, and help fix those gaps before somebody actually takes advantage of them. So what threat emulation is doing for us is being that bad guy for good reasons, or TLDR, just be the threat. That's what we're trying to do here. What does it really mean, though? You guys have probably seen this slide before if you've ever seen me talk. This applies to most of my workshops because there's always a little bit of threat emulation in them. But this is more than a pen test. We're not just opening up Metasploit and throwing every module they ever have in there at a host and hoping something sticks, right? This is really a targeted approach to testing. We're trying to be meticulous, be realistic, and actually have our organizations get that look of what it would be like to actually face a threat. Was that the microwave?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay. It was like, that was an odd noise.
It's China.
So that completely threw me off. Anyways, back to it. So before we can do all of the fun stuff, we've got to kind of figure some stuff out. So let's look at what that recipe to a great actual threat emulation campaign would be. You've all seen this kind of stuff, right? You've seen this before on the news, Bleeping Computer, your Twitter feed, or Mastodon, or whatever your current social media likes to be. All of these things that people freak out about and talk about and all the stuff your managers are always asking you, like, hey, Are we protected against X? Are we good? Well, how do you answer that question? Most people don't. They have no idea where to start. They have no idea if they're good or not. They have no idea if they're not already popped. So our goal here is to take all of this and make it actually usable. We do that by taking a look in the mirror. When you're thinking about CTI and you're trying to develop a threat picture and what you would utilize, a couple key things come into play here. First one being information. What do you have that someone else is going to care about? Are you collecting and holding PHI, PAI? Maybe you've got financial records, you've got some kind of intellectual property that somebody would want. All of that kind of stuff will make a difference in what a threat looks like for you when you're building this overall profile. That leads into industries in and of itself. So what industry are you working in? The threats you're going to face, say, in education is going to be far different than what you're going to face working in R&D or energy or for the government. It's completely different people targeting those types of verticals or niches. All of that kind of plays together with who you are, the information you have, but also where are you in the world? Let's say you work in oil, natural gas refinement, right? It can be a rough gig. A lot of people are targeting it, right? Energy sector. But there's a big difference in who's going to target you if you're working oil, natural gas, you're an organization, say, out of the Midwest in America, compared to if you're out of the Middle East, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, these areas running the same kind of industry. The people targeting you are vastly different on different scales, different skill sets. More than likely, if you're thinking over here in the Midwest and the Americas, who's kind of trying to target you from that perspective? More often than not, yeah, it would be something like hacktivists, eco-warriors, those kind of people that don't want you running their pipeline through their backyard. Whereas in the Middle East, that is very much a geopolitical and a money thing. So you're getting targeted by nation state actors, crime groups, things like that. So you're facing very different threats in the same vertical or market, even though you're doing the same things. So that's why region comes into play. And then lastly, looking at your historical data. Who's targeted you before? If your organization hasn't been breached yet in 2025, you're one of the lucky, what, like 0.1% now, especially if you're a public-facing company. If it's a school system, county, state, local government, you've been popped. If you haven't reported it yet, you just don't know it. So use that information. Use all of these crazy tools that your managers are buying, your SIEMs, your EDRs, your XDRs, SOARs, XSOARs, whatever the new phrase that came out of Black Hat is this year. All of those things should be logging, correlating this data. You should be able to take that and utilize it to say, hey, we've been phished a lot this year. A lot of these phishing campaigns are coming out of Russia. I wonder why they care about us. But at least now you have an idea who's targeting you and the threat actors that you could potentially research to emulate. Does that make sense? Cool. So how do we find that information, right? We kind of have an idea of how we would take a look in the mirror, how we would develop who we think is targeting us. Like I said, inch deep, mile wide. I'm going to spam through like 15, 20 slides, and then it's mostly hands-on. But now that we have an idea of what would be targeting us, we need to figure out how to gather intel and what's going to be actually useful for us. I thought about changing these slides, but I kind of felt like leaving them because Bosch loves them. They dump on his company. But it's a great example. So when we're thinking about CTI and what these resources are for us, a lot of what you see out in the wild, and like if you read a blog from Bleeping Computer or something like that, or any of the breach reports that are out there, they're usually kind of in this unhelpful range. Like, hey, we take your security and your information seriously. We want to make sure that we let you know something happened. We're not quite sure what happened, but we've got it under control. We promise. We'll let you know more of what's going on. And here's 3 free years of credit monitoring. That's basically all they're giving us here. It's very unhelpful. There's a whole lot of words in here, and there's really nothing that we can use from it. To the right, we're getting, I don't know if it's visible for y'all yet, we're kind of getting a little better. We're getting into that range of now we've got MITRE T codes, right? Everybody loves T codes. We see these everywhere now. It doesn't matter if you're looking at CTI, a pen test report, your last vulnerability assessment, management recommendations. Everybody's using them everywhere now. Great question. Thank you. So a T code, I'm referring to MITRE attack tactics and techniques. Those T codes like we see here on this page, the TA004 or T1082, they help define a specific technique or tactic that a threat actor would utilize. So this could be something like how they did execution or a specific way of doing lateral movement or local user enumeration. All of those behaviors have been tied to MITRE T codes. That's actually a great question. Nobody even at DEF CON thought to ask something like that. I don't know if you have that one yet, but
Yes, I don't.
So this is pen testing, right?
not really. So we're being a lot more targeted. We're not hammering on the endpoints. We're not going wide. We're going to emulate a specific behavior or chain of behaviors in a campaign that we've seen from these threat actors or a culmination of them. We're not trying to just grab domain admin because that's not really what all of these threat actors are doing. Odds are they're getting in, they're taking something they want, you're probably catching a ransom along the way and getting out. If they're doing a lot of the stuff you see in a pen test, that would be extremely odd. They might have as much dwell time as you'd get on a pen test, but they're not trying to do those same actions and be noisy. They want to be stealthy. They want to be there. They have an objective. The open-ended objective usually on a pen test is, well, see what you can find, right? That's not what a threat's trying to do.
So I'm not looking for vulnerabilities. I'm looking for behaviors.
So yes, when we're looking through this CTI, we're not necessarily, we don't care about vulnerabilities. We care about the behaviors that these threat actors are showing us, the stuff that's reported. That's kind of a part that goes with this, right? The only way we know about a lot of this is because an incident happens, it gets cleaned up, triaged, reported on, and now that information is disseminated to us. But that one was kind of getting better, but here's the best case scenario. We're going to get something like this that's actionable, it's repeatable, and it's based in truth. This incident response happened. The Mystic turned around and did a whole write-up and gave us this fancy little paragraph basically saying, here's some of the stuff we saw this specific Chinese threat actor doing. And they list out actual like command line elements. We're seeing that they were running Whoami, they were using MSHTA, they're doing directory listings. All of this sounds pretty mundane, but this is the stuff that we care about because we want to keep our emulations and the way we're doing threat emulation based in truth. We're not always trying to just kind of make it up and do something cool. I'll contradict myself here in a minute on that a little bit, but that's not the end goal, right? So this is kind of what we're looking for as you're digging through CTI and trying to find something useful. Lucky for you guys, you're going to do this here in a minute. Just as another example, I wanted to bring this up one more time so you could see the extraction from those kind of paragraphs and from this intelligence and research that's out there that you guys are going to look at. This paragraph is kind of looks unhelpful at first, but this is what requires a little bit of knowledge already in this field and being able to tease out the specifics. So the final step here was the deployment of the Black Suit ransomware binary QWE, which was distributed over SMB, which is what? Anybody?
Simple message block.
There you go. Yep, easy way of saying it. It's another protocol. You can pass data along, Windows information systems, fun stuff, right? Through the $C share. Basically saying, hey, there's open shares on endpoints. We're just using SMB to throw this payload from host to host. That attacker then manually connected to those systems using RDP because it's not shut off. Why would we turn off the easiest C2 platform in the world, right? To execute their ransomware. Upon that execution, it then used VSS admin, which is another application on a Windows endpoint, to delete the shadow copies before it encrypted these hosts in the ransomware. Now, why would they do that? Why would they delete shadow copies? Yep, no backups at that point. Can't get an easy restore. So from this, we can kind of interpret what the kill chain looks like. Once they're on host, they're utilizing SMB to distribute their malware. They're using RDP to turn around and execute said malware. Then that malware itself, as it's going through and propagating and encrypting everything, it's deleting the backups and kind of finishing out its process. So we have an idea of what the kill chain looks like, but we don't know the specifics of, well, how did they do that? We know what they did, not how. So this is where we kind of have to interpret a little bit. We're going to have to come in and do something like I did here and say, okay, well, I'm going to use $C, pass it, I'll make a command that shows how to do that and actually utilize it. The same with like VSS admin. Well, if I'm deleting shadow copies, that tells me what they did, but not the command line string, so I just included it here at the end saying, hey, this command, VSS admin delete shadow /all, that's going to take care of this for you. So now I know what they did. I have an idea just based off prior knowledge and experience of how they did it. Does that make sense? So this was like a 15-minute crash course in CTI that I usually teach as a half-day thing in and of itself. Sorry if it feels kind of disconjointed and weird. So we talked about what we care about, how to determine that. We talked about kind of what we're looking for. Now, where do you find it? I've included these resources here as things that you guys could utilize tonight and look at, or just in the future in general, if you happen to work in cybersecurity, to find this kind of information. The key ones here I'd want to hit on, the top right corner, you can see kind of looks like a dashboard. This is a start.me page made by InfoSec Ninja, which is kind of like my single plane of truth. This is where I start really in any investigation or just like my daily look into CTI. Because it's, if you go to the start.me link, it's in the resources in the manual for the lab. You'll see that there's basically a feed from every major security vendor out there, from all the government agencies, CISA, all of those fun places, right? And it shows you kind of side by side what everyone's reporting on right now, and it kind of makes it easy to see trends and what threat actors are active, what's kind of happening, if there's any new 0 days that are being exploited, stuff like that. So it's a really good resource to start at and kind of figure out where you like to find your information, because you're going to develop kind of a bias to certain reporting styles and trends over time. Everyone does. It's just one of those things that happens. I know quite a few people that really like how the DFIR report does their write-ups. For me, they're usually a little too heavy on the malware analysis piece. I personally prefer something like CISA and their write-ups, because they give me more actionable intelligence, less like engineering, programming, in the weeds stuff. So with that in mind, other resources. CISA. If you haven't checked out CISA in the last couple of years, you're missing out. The alerts and the advisories that they're putting out on all of these ransomware actors and threat actors in general, new potential CVEs, 0 days, things like that pop up, are great. They're extremely detailed, especially when they're talking about incident reports. They're giving you down to like that best case scenario I showed you guys on the screen. They're giving you these style write-ups for free. You don't get this from the majority of the paid CTI threat feeds out there now. Like, they're not giving you this, but CISA's doing it for free 99. Why would you not take advantage of it, right? So they're hands down my favorite. Some other reputable ones that are good, but I mean, mileage may vary on what you want. The DFIR report, again, they give really good information, but unless you're paying them money, they're a little slow on the release of said information. As an example, CISA's putting out anywhere from like 3 to 7 alerts a day, whereas DFIR report, if you're not giving them money, you might get 1 or 2 a month. It's a big difference, right? Especially when you're in the realm of defending an organization. Google Tag, their threat actor group, is really good as well. They put out a lot of information. It's sporadic at times, but when they do, it's always excellent content, and it's always useful. When in doubt, if you have no idea where you want to start, the one I will mention, and I'll show you guys some of these as we're going through the manual piece here in a little bit. MITRE ATT&CK. We've all heard of it, right? Crispy's fancy bingo card. Most people don't realize they put out a whole section on CTI now. They've took all of this information they've curated over the last, 2 decades or whatever, and made you a whole repository of profiling threat actors, all the names and aliases they go by, their historical campaigns, who they've hit, how they did it, and all of the references and resources that they utilized from there. And they're giving it to you for free. So when in doubt, if you're trying to start a CTI program, that's the place to look. There's all the information you need to get running. Is it an end-all be-all? No, but for free 99, it's the best place to start. A couple others, Unit 42, social media. Obviously, if you're not following Twitter, Mastodon, some crazy deep website like John does all of the time, you're kind of missing out on some stuff. There is information out there. A lot of people share it publicly. Sadly, the political climate that we're in right now has kind of made it all very distributed. It used to be really kind of in 1 or 2 single points to where you can get a good look at everything. Now people have let their political values get in the way of their professional objectives, and they're kind of siloing themselves. So you really have to hunt for a lot of it. Yes?
Now, people share CTI in the Temple chat, don't we?
Yeah, so we have several channels, so red, blue, purple team that have a lot of information in them. But we also have an active CTI feed, I think it's called Threat Feed, down there in the Guild Discord for you guys to utilize as well. So that's always a place you can check in. It's an automated feed. As something new gets published by a bunch of different resources, it ends up in there. So that's just one more nice little thing you're getting out of membership. Any questions on those resources, what we're looking for, kind of how to go about this whole process? I know you haven't done it yet, but we're about to. Some of the hurdles we may face along this journey when you're thinking about CTI and gathering all of this information. This data is historic, right? Like, this isn't the new hotness. Odds are, if you're finding really good actionable intelligence from a threat actor campaigns, from somebody get the door, from a ransomware that happened, things like that, that information by the time you see it is anywhere from like 6 to 18 months out of date. Anybody know why? It had to go back through incident response. Lawyers are brought in, so now you've got all of the triage, all these other things happening. There's court proceedings. And then once all of that is kind of resolved and done, maybe they'll release the information to you. So by the time you've seen it, it's already done. These threat actors have probably moved on from those tactics, or at least upgraded a little bit, but it's still useful information. So just keep it in mind as you're going through this all and you're reading it. Unless it's something where they slipped up or it's a really good release on like the recent SharePoint CVE that came out, a lot of people had that one locked down really fast, which is kind of rare. But most of the time this information will be historic. So you're not always going to be able to see the newest from doing these kinds of research, but you're going to at least be able to see the trends and be able to infer what these threat actors are doing. Because you'll notice after the first 100 reports you read, it all is almost kind of the same playbook. They've got specific objectives. They've got to find a way in. Once they're in, they've got to set persistence. Once they've done that, they might poke around, try to elevate, gather some data, maybe try to exfil something. But then ultimately their end goal is impact, right? Whether that's ransomware, that's IP theft, that's something else that happens on the environment. It's the same goals over and over. So you have the ability to, one, understand where they're going, but two, infer what they would do at any given point in that kill chain. This will all make more sense in a bit on why we care so much about that. So, getting a clear picture. This is where I said I was going to contradict myself. We want our threat emulations, we want the content or the information that we're gathering to be based in fact, based in truth, and pertain to that threat actor directly. But the realistic piece of this is not everything is always reported. We don't always see the behaviors they execute. Maybe they covered their tracks, they caused some destruction along the way, so just parts of the puzzle are missing. This requires us to get a little creative and fill in the gaps. And that's what I mean by being able to infer along that kill chain and what they're doing. You have to know, like, okay, well, we really saw how they did enumeration. That write-up was great, but we lost them at persistence and didn't see them again until impact. So now you've kind of got to fill in the gap and assume what they would have done. And you can do that several different ways. For me, typically, that happens to be kind of like a committee rule. We'll talk along each other and be like, well, have we seen this threat actor do it somewhere else in a previous campaign? What was their methodology? If that exists, we'll use that in place. If that doesn't exist, me and my team will kind of come together and go, well, how would we have done this if we were hitting that organization? What would that have looked like from our perspective? And kind of build our own path and fill in the gaps that way. But then lastly, I have to put this in almost everything I teach because people don't realize it, and I see it from security professionals nowadays, professional red teamers, pen testers. Don't make more holes than were there when you got there. If you're going to introduce some new vulnerability, some new hole, you're going to run a fancy exploit and leave a web shell in place, you should probably clean up after yourself once you're done. And even while you're still working and it's still active, don't make it accessible to the entire world. You need to ensure that you're being a good custodian for your organization or your customer, whoever it happens to be, and not introducing more vulnerabilities.
So he and I worked on the same red team, and both when we were working on that team, what we did was do a mission log of right now it's 7/26, so 1926 Eastern Standard launched an Nmap scan. 1930 found an open port. 1935 tried to attack that open port with this attack, and that helps you can follow it in reverse to clean up after yourself, and B, whenever you're reporting to the client, that helps you report on exactly what you did and what objectives you achieved.
Yes.
I would also point out that there's 1.5 million GitHub repositories. There's 1.5 million GitHub repositories that allow you to do timestamp logging in your terminal, and you should absolutely use one of those because I don't take good notes all the time. I will forget, and being able to go back and be like, oh yeah, on Sunday at 5 p.m. I did run an Nmap scan on every port and lit up their thing. So.
Yeah, the rabbit hole is real. I've had it happen a time or two. It really takes some experience and almost, I would say, persistence in yourself to learn that as a skill, because it's really it's a skill. Because I'm terrible at notes until after the fact. I'm like, oh, what did I do again?
The terminal timestamps help a lot.
Yep. But yeah, so that's some of the hurdles you might face throughout this whole little journey here.
Sure.
I'm going to talk about this later. We'll come back to that. I want you guys to go play. So, who in here has not gotten into Core Stack and gotten access to my lab environment? 4 hours. Cool. So it is active. I set the timer to end, I think, at 11:30 tonight. So you have time to play while we're here, but also if you go back home and you want to poke and prod a little more, you can. This first section, which you're going to step through, I've curated a couple different threat actors for you. They should target multiple verticals to match whatever industry you happen to work in or you may want to work in. Take some time, read through this documentation and kind of take some notes. Look at what you see them doing. If there are any trends, can you spot any behaviors that you might be able to utilize? I'm asking you to kind of look at this now to practice the skill, but also I want you to document those behaviors so you can use them later on as we start diving into actually using a C2 framework and doing some threat actor stuff. Make sense? So I'll probably give it a quick, maybe like let's say a 15-minute timer for you guys to do a little bit of reading and research and look through that first section and check in. If you guys need more time after that, we can extend. Chris, if you just want to go to a blank screen or something for a bit, you can. We can cut this section out later. I'm not talking anymore. They're doing hands-on portion.
Yeah, let me figure something out.
There we go. She's listening to me in surround sound. Straight from your endpoint or your browser and dig through the research articles and stuff. I would say if you take at least a minute though to go look at like the start.me page or look through some of CISA's alerts and advisories too, not just the stuff I curated, because that stuff's actually pretty good.
You have on the start.me page, do you have a section that you look at the most, the one that like tend to magnetize towards?
Usually I'll go down the far right because CISA and all of their stuff is there. Then over, I want to say towards like the top middle, you'll have like Google Tag and some of the others. Yeah. As you get lower on that start.me page, it starts getting away from CTI and more into like the methodologies and research and reading on like how to do threat intelligence as a whole. So I stay to like that's a lot of the things are weird. It's like Kaspersky and stuff that I wouldn't really trust anyway. Right? Can you expand this one real quick? Documenting, yeah. So we're going to go through that section, the higher level chapter labeled Documenting Our Behaviors. At the bottom of that, where it says CTI collection and operationalization, that's where we're going to stop for this lab. Yep, exactly. It looks like a lot, but you don't have to actually do each section in there. The ones in documenting, they're just, each page is dedicated to a unique threat actor. So just take a quick glance, pick one that interests you, and read on that one. Hi, buddy.
What's up?
Not much. What's going on? Would you like to play?
Would you like to play a game?
Hmm?
Global Film Industry Award?
Let's say you.
Tall and thin and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes each one she passes goes when she walks she's like a samba that swings so cool and sways so gently that when she passes each one she passes goes but he watched her so sadly. How can he tell her he loves her? Yes, he would give his heart gladly. But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at him. Tall and thin and young and lovely, the girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she passes he smiles, but she doesn't see. Oh, but he watches so sadly. How can he tell her he loves her? Yes, he would give his heart gladly. But each day when she walks to the sea, she looks straight ahead, not at him.
Stems Light Trap attracts and traps bugs 24/7.
The girl from Ipanema.
Let me tell you why we have Spectre. I'm on a video chat. When this is live stream with her audience, the kids are on their phone streaming while gaming.
She just doesn't see.
I just want to start
She doesn't see.
a flame in your
She just doesn't see.
In my heart I have but one need. I don't want, I don't set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart. In my heart I have but one desire, and that one is you. No other will do.
How can he tell her he loves her?
I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim. I just want to be the one you love. And with your admission that you feel the same, I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. Believe me, I don't want to set the world on fire. I don't want to set the world flaming on fire. I just want to I don't want to set the world on fire,
a
honey.
flame in your heart.
I love you too much. I just want to start
In my heart,
great big
I have
flame
but one
down in your heart.
desire,
You see,
and that one
way down inside of me,
no
darling, I have
other
only one desire. And that one desire is
I've
you.
lost all ambition,
And I know
a worldly
nobody
acclaim.
else ain't gonna
I just want to be the one you love.
I've
And
lost
with
all
your
ambition
admission that you feel the same, I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. Believe me,
And
I
with your
don't
admission
set the
that
world
you feel the same,
on fire. I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. I just want to start to set the world aflame in your fire. I just want to
I don't want to set the world on fire, honey.
a flame in your heart.
I love you too much. I just want to start a great big flame down in your heart. You see, way down inside of me, darling, I have only one desire. And that one desire is you. And I know nobody else ain't gonna do. I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim. I just wanna be the one you love. And with your admission that you feel the same,
I'll have reached the goal I'm dreaming of. Believe me, I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart.
Городскую девчонку в субботнюю ночь ожидает решающий бой. В этом мире тот, кто ее замечал, называл сумасшедшей. Она словно острый нож, да становится огнем. Выбор только между быть или не быть. Без сомнения, она гениально танцует. Это магия движений ее, да. Она гениально танцует. Так не двигался никто и никогда. Без сомнения, она гениально танцует. Это магия движений ее, да. Без сомнения, она гениально танцует. Не двигался никто и никогда. Без сомнения, она
Joining the Neon Temple won't stop you from having a midlife crisis. But at least you'll be loved for the degenerate tech-savvy nerd that you truly are. Join the guild or f off.
Realistically, just cool people in the field that they're doing it for the cause, not for money. Where they've came through and by region, by country, like all of those common indicators, they've mapped all of them by their common name, but also by like what CrowdStrike versus Microsoft versus Kaspersky or whoever else tracks them by. So if you ever need to do that correlation, this is kind of a good starting point to find it. The other spot for me that's actually been really interesting as a way to kind of get correlation on names had nothing to do with threat intelligence and had everything to do with malware. So a lot of these people that like to reverse engineer it or look at reporting on malware have kind of tagged and done that for us already. Is it, where'd it go?
Actually, gaming numbers to be a good vector in a home, get access to the
So Malpedia is another example that kind of takes care of that for us. Their primary purpose is, just being a common, think of it as like an encyclopedia for all things malware. But they've taken all of the open source reporting documents, things like that are breaking down all of these different malware payloads and putting them in a common criteria for us to look at. And they tag them not just by like the name of the malware, but they'll tag it by the common names that these threat actors are tracked by if it's associated with someone. So you can kind of make that correlation if it's not already like up in the Rosetta Stone or somewhere that's easily searchable. This is kind of where I'll go to find those little offshoots and variants, especially if it's something where like a ransomware crime group has renamed themselves 16 times in the last 3 years. It's like, okay, is this one actually this, or is it just kind of being loosely associated? This can kind of help answer that question. So I don't use this for anything actually like malware related. I use it for another source of CTI in naming conventions.
Where did you get that Google sheet?
Say again?
Where did you get the Google sheet?
The Rosetta Stone.
Oh, okay.
Found this kind of floating out there. Honestly, I forget where I got it. This might be one of those handy dandy things Crispy showed me, to be honest.
Can that be dropped somewhere?
Yeah, the link to it should also be in the course manual, so you can just copy the link. If it's not, I'll throw it in guild chat. Okay, we've been going for a bit. So did everybody kind of pick a threat that they saw within the write-ups and do a little bit of research and reading? Does anybody need more time? Or is anyone actually taking notes on behaviors? If not, that's cool. Just means you're kind of going to be aimlessly pointed later at stuff. Cool. I'll give you guys like 5 more minutes and then we will move on. So you can get to the actual fun stuff. You good, Chris? You good? Let me make sure I actually gave you that. If I didn't. Nope, looks like I didn't. So copy. RJ, I'm not actively watching Discord, so if you have a question, just talk to me, dude. Huh? No, that wasn't a dig. That's like a legitimate, like, I'm not going to watch Discord. Okay, gotcha. Poke Tremere. So I guess since I had to flip in here to drop you guys a link, Log Slayer, who's not here tonight, Lamo, dropped a question saying, has anyone been effective at using LLMs and asking for resources from a CTI perspective? So actually, yes. But it's just like everything else in this industry, trust but verify. I've come up with a couple pretty good system level prompts that I can utilize to get, like, I will say I have more usefulness or more reliability out of Claude than like ChatGPT to feed me back CTI, or at least give me quick, concise summaries of threat actors and other resources that I can go then and look at. I don't ever just like take it on faith and trust what the AI is saying. I'll always go and have it, I have it think programmatically and have it provide me all the resources it looks at. I do use the research piece from Claude as well, because it's worth its weight in gold, to be honest. To not have it siloed to looking back at 1993 data only.
Would you consider Claude a better AI system for cybersecurity than ChatGPT?
I think it depends. It depends on what you're trying to do and how good you are at prompting. So each one takes prompt styles a little differently. It looks for different stuff, weighs things differently. And the data that they're trained on is all a little different. For me and the kind of work that I do, Claude has been more effective. I use it a lot more for like quick summaries, helping me find new research and other things to look at. But I also use it a lot for like coding and making quick janky payloads in malware. Like, I've found a way to kind of like coerce it to make stuff for me, whereas I can't do that in ChatGPT. It doesn't like to do it, and it's just kind of a pain for me to coerce it. What I have found for me the biggest difference, Claude, I'll use more for like actual work, whereas I'll use ChatGPT for more creative work. So if I'm trying to, like do imagery or do some kind of creative writing or help it improve my writing, ChatGPT tends to be more effective. But it also comes down to what model you're using, how good your system prompts as well as your actual user prompts are. There's so much that goes into it. By no means am I any kind of professional when it comes to using AI.
It also depends on how much you want to spend on tokens, too.
There you go.
Because Claude is, I think, reportedly one of, I think it's like the second most expensive model to use.
I don't pay for it.
Yeah, must be nice.
Yeah, I do pay for ChatGPT, I will say that. I pay for a subscription on that.
All free AI stuff sucks. Just know that.
You can trick them into giving
They all suck.
My grandma,
Don't pay for it.
Grandma's dying.
I'll say I tried to use Claude or ChatGPT on a recent hack the box problem, and it gave me the wrong answer. No surprise there.
Was it prompted?
Well, I just basically plugged in the question, and it was basically Unix command line issue. It gave me the wrong answer.
I also, ChatGPT, like I went really hard with like their new
On
features.
What features?
Volt Typhoon, your bottom link from PwC is broken.
Joining the Neon Temple won't stop you from having a midlife crisis. But at least you'll be loved for
you about any of them particularly? Was there one that you were kind of drawn to? Yeah.
The Black Sheep group I was talking about actually uses I think it's an official OS software. Where is it here? Uses official OS software and management software to actually do a lot of their breaches instead of third party or extra sources.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I always assume it's always third party stuff, not as often built-in systems.
No, that's kind of the tale as old as time. Is a lot of these threat actors, or even if John was in here, to even us red teamers or pen testers, we're living off the land as much as possible because one, you're providing it for me, means I don't have to bring something in, which is another indicator. Two, I don't have to waste time and money in development. Three, again, you're bringing it, so why would I not? And the tools are really easy to use. The really interesting part when you think about living off the land, so for my example earlier where they were using RDP to distribute their malware, or to execute it, sorry. It's built into Windows already. It's there, it works, and it works extremely well. One, why wouldn't you use it? But two, from a threat perspective, how do you distinguish your use of RDP from my use of RDP? That makes it that much harder for local defenders to actually do their job. If I'm bringing in my own custom payloads and binaries, or they see some new thing execute and it bubbles to the top, they're going, well, this totally not evil.exe sounds really weird. I should probably investigate. But this person using RDP for the 900th time this week, they don't care. So that's kind of how they can hide and dwell longer in your environment and blend in. Anybody else? Anything interesting stick out? Maybe a particular behavior?
Same thing. Intermittent encryption.
Is it intermittent?
Intermittent, yeah. Just encrypting portions of the file so they can encrypt a lot more files in their window that they have to go in and attack, and it helps evade the scanners because it's not using tons of computing power, it's just using little bits, and basically accomplishes the same thing. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yep. Encryption, that's kind of why you see ransomware as so prevalent nowadays. It's still really hard to actually effectively alert and trigger on bad encryption versus someone else just making another zip file descend to the sea level. And in a silo, just looking at archive creation is extremely difficult. That's what I mean when I'm talking we need to understand the bigger picture and the behaviors that will precede that. So if I notice all of a sudden new logins in certain places, data is being moved from shares to a local host in a weird directory like temp or something like that, okay, something's going on. Why is this person pulling mass amounts of data? Then all of a sudden the data is archived. Well, duh, we're getting ransomed. Yeah. They're exfilling stuff so that they could double extort us. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
So seeing the full picture is how you beat threats like that. Just catching encryption.
Right.
It's going to give you more false positives than negatives, really. Or than value, sorry. So cool. So you guys had a chance to dig into them. You saw some behaviors. Now, what does that all mean? How did you document it? Did anybody take notes, open a spreadsheet, anything like that?
Obsidian.
Understood. Obsidian, yep. However you want to do it's fine. If you didn't have a way, I can go back over here and back up real quick. It's a good time to talk about, well, you found all this stuff. Now, what are you going to do with it? Calling out MITRE again because they've provided yet another awesome and free 99 resource. They have put out these threat actor profile reports from Center of Threat Informed Defense that are out there for you guys. They have them to where you can write actual intel reports, maybe full threat actor profiles. They have one for incident reporting, and I think they also put out a free one for doing executive high-level summaries. They're all really good templates to start from if you need to start documenting threat actor behavior or just this kind of information in general. And it's free. Did I mention it's free? If you prefer more of a visual side of things, whereas I'm a very visual person, me reading through a long list of IOCs and behaviors and things like that, my brain can't retain it. It's slop. But if you take all of that and put it into a fancy flow or a picture like we have up here on the top right, that I can now see the full picture. I see what's happening, and I can understand what this threat actor is trying to do. I utilize attack flow in that manner to visualize these threat campaigns and this CTI. It's a cool way of doing it. Plus, this is great for reporting, right? Sea levels love pretty pictures. So if you need to generate reports, why not do it in a way that's nice instead of using yet another PowerPoint?
IBM X-Force does a good job too for giving you a resource to collect a bunch of your information.
Free resource? Cool. I have to look at it.
They have paid parts of it too,
Yeah.
but they also.
Yeah. So I tried to focus this entire workshop on free 99.
Yeah. Yeah, like they have like some stuff you can pay for extra or whatever, but they have a lot of free stuff.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, so this is just some stuff you can utilize. The other thing I will say, on the last page of this section for documenting, I put a spreadsheet in there that you guys can utilize. It's got some sample data in it already, and you can use that same format to just go in and start copying and pasting your behaviors and attributing stuff. It is out there for free. If you want to see another version of it with some more details, the Purple Team Exercise Framework has that in there as well. But cool. So that was our Gathering CTI lab. What did you guys think about that? Good, bad? You learned something new? So you learned about some threat actors, kind of thought about intelligence for a bit. Maybe you've never done that before. Thank you. So that is usually a half-day course. You guys just got in an hour.
We got the free 99 version.
Exactly. You got the free 99 version. Really understand that threat actor now and what you want to emulate later. So how are we going to do that? Well, first thing, I'm going to repeat myself again for the 900th time. In CTI, we trust. You want to make sure you base these emulations in what? Facts, truth. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't think you'll have this one yet. Yep. So in CTI, we trust. That should be your your first ground source. Start with CTI. If you have to improvise, that's okay. That's understandable. Go ahead and do that. From there, like I said, you might have to bridge the gaps. Do it only when necessary. Last piece down here we need to mention. Emulation does not equal exact replication. If you look online or you search Twitter for emulation versus simulation, or those two words in conjunction, there's people that have like entire flame wars on the meanings of them. In this instance, for this workshop, the way that I personally look at emulation versus simulation is this. You can play Gran Turismo. You can play some crazy racing sim with, you know, the whole bucket seat set up and your wraparound screens and all the fun little toys. Or you could play Need for Speed. Gran Turismo is simulation, right? That's like playing a flight sim. The car's gonna move like an actual car would move. It's gonna have all of the haptics. It's gonna do all the craziness. It's an exact replica. Emulation, Need for Speed, yeah, you're still driving a car. It will kind of have the same effects. It'll move, it'll do its thing, but it's close. It's not exact, right? So that's the way we're looking at this here. When we're talking thread emulation, we're wanting to get close. You don't need to do an exact replication. Now, why would I say that? Anybody have an idea here?
You're dealing with a threat actor. You don't want them actually destroying or encrypting your data.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would never actually want to run their ransomware in my environment. That's a very poor choice.
Because in the end, they even change up the tactics, so having the exact thing they do doesn't always really matter, because as long as you're replicating the path and everything, it's still doing your job of learning.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. You kind of getting close, you having to fake the funk a bit or interpret what's going on is going to make your team better, because now they're not, statically looking for a specific thing. There's more than one way to do local user enumeration on a host, right? If you can spot one, can you spot the others? There's multiple different ways to set persistence. So by you not being exact all of the time, you're allowing for some drift and some flow, and overall, your company's capability is expanding. But more of what I was kind of looking for here too is those breach reports you were looking at, those advisories, they were based on that threat actor compromising some organization, right? Are you that organization? Do you have their exact tech stack, their same misconfigurations, users, problems, debt to income ratio? Like, no, you're not them, so why would you try to directly simulate what happened to them? You need to change up the way things are done, and you need to understand yourself as an organization and have these emulations kind of match to you while trying to maintain the realism. A good example of this, and I kind of talked about this for a bit in a live stream a few days ago, the whole SharePoint CVE debacle went down, right? How many people's management lost their minds? Anyone? No? You guys are all lucky. All kinds of people up in arms, like, oh my God, we're going to get compromised. SharePoint's the worst. Are you even running SharePoint in your organization? Should you care? No, but does your management know that? Not really. They see a big scary headline that popped up in their little Apple news feed going, oh no, we need to figure out if we're protected. I don't know. You being able to understand who you are as an organization would easily tell you that, hey, I don't need to actually care about this. So now you're not about to waste days reading through all of the different POCs, all of the reports, trying to develop an emulation plan on something that's never going to work in your environment. So emulation, better than simulation from this perspective. Make sense? I'm sure somebody's going to hate me saying that later on the internet.
Crispy probably already is.
Yep, he's probably writing me a detailed report of tonight. To make Crispy appear, I had to include his pyramid. So I look at this a little differently. When we're talking threat emulation, actually, let me step back. When we're talking CTI as a whole, the majority of what the market puts out there, it's this stuff. Domains, IPs, hash values, stuff that has already been seen and that your firewalls and AV and EDR and all of that are already dynamically updating and blocking before you read about it. So that's cool, but it's also a multi-million-dollar industry. They're making money by selling you the data twice because you bought the product, using their tools, you probably paid for professional services, and you're buying the threat feed on top of it where they're just regurgitating it to you anyway, and it doesn't matter. Congrats, you got played. Anyways, none of that shit matters when we're thinking threat emulation because I'm never going to, one, be able to create that payload again with the exact same hash value, nor am I going to go pull that down from somewhere and try to detonate it in your environment. Makes zero sense. That's how you get fired. That's how you get sued. That's how you have a very bad year. Just don't do it. Where we care more about when we're talking threat emulation, we're looking at the top 3 levels of this pyramid. We care about those network and host artifacts because that's the kind of stuff that we can pay attention to from the defensive side is state-based changes, things being left in the environment. I summoned Crispy. Yeah, go ahead. I keep that in there just for him.
He's at home drunk right now watching the USF news.
Okay, I was wondering why I wasn't seeing that something.
Does he just like hate that model or something?
Nah, we just like to mess with them. So those artifacts that are left on disk, that's how we recognize something's wrong. That's usually the first tipper. Oh, hey, we don't allow any disk in this environment. Why is it on a bunch of hosts all of a sudden? Now everybody's losing their minds, things like that, right? But that's the kind of stuff that we can replicate when it comes to threat emulation. I can utilize some of the similar open source or common tooling they're utilizing, use it in the same kind of manner, and emulate them and leave those artifacts for you as a team to respond to and train against. That makes sense? Same thing with tools, TTPs. The way these threat actors are gathering specific information, maybe the way that they introduce their payloads, their behaviors are the kind of things that matter. So we can I won't say necessarily easily replicate those, but that's what we should be focused on replicating. Things like TTPs can be hard, again, because we don't always know what they actually did, but 2, you may not have the same capability and skill level as them. So you kind of have to fake the funk and create your own there based on you, your organization, and what you're trying to do. But that's what we care about. Top 3 levels. Bottom 3, no bueno. Top 3, all good. So now we know what we need. Now we need to tie it to a capability, right? How am I going to replicate those artifacts? How am I going to do what they did, whether that's using their tools, their specific behaviors, things like that. Now you've kind of got a problem on your hands. Do you want to spend time and effort developing a bunch of free and open source stuff, or do you want to spend money and buy tools for your team to use? Both have a cost, right? They both have some kind of sink that go into it. I'm not going to preach one way or the other. That's up to you and your organization and your team. If you're a team of one, I tend to lean towards buy the thing that'll make your life easier. If you are a huge team and you have devs, why are you not using them? That's all I'll say on this, okay? But for you guys, since we're talking free 99 and we're thinking about this lab environment, a couple different ways that we can kind of get started in this whole threat emulation game. The first one being good old trusty shell. You've all got a computer in front of you, right? Whether it's Windows, Linux, Mac OS, it doesn't matter. You can open up a shell, right? Whether that's Bash, Command Prompt, PowerShell, Oh My Z shell, or whatever crazy derivative fork that Rab happens to be using tonight. You all happen to have that capability. Guess what? That's really all you need to perform these behaviors and to actually emulate a threat. Because in the end, those commands and those strings are still going to generate that telemetry and those artifacts that we want. It's a great place to start. It's a low barrier to entry. And now you're not learning a bunch of new crazy tools that you've never had to use before. Plus, nobody can really tell you not to use that. It's already there. They didn't pay for it, so why would they get mad? Just my thought. Next kind of level up here, you can go and start using things like Atomic Red Team. This will expand to that capability a bit. Again, this is a free 99 tool, so you get what you pay for. They don't always work. But overall, it's a really cool resource and a really great way to start generating threat signal without a lot of time and effort and development and upkeep. Some of those atomic tests are really useful for validating that you can actually detect these specific TTPs or behaviors. Lastly, you have the good old paid route, right? There's all kinds of platforms out there. Mind you, I work for one of these organizations. You all know that by now. I'm not shilling for myself. But go ahead and pick the buzzword from Gartner this week, whether it's BAS, BAS Plus, CTEM, AEV. There's always a new one, right, where someone's trying to sell. They've got the new and first hotness on the market for whatever that category is. There is paid resources out there. Some of them are great. Some of them, you're spending a lot of money for someone to just tell you, trust me, bro, and not really do anything. I'm not going to mention who. But they can help you kind of get started, and they ease that barrier to entry for you, because a lot of this time and effort that you guys were just spending on reading CTI and understanding behaviors and trying to develop these campaigns, they kind of already do for you. That's what my whole day job is to ingest all of this data and turn it into something usable for my customers, or use it against them. I tend to do that from time to time too. But yeah, so that's what I'll say about capability development. For you guys in this environment, I've provided you with two things already when it comes to capabilities. One, you've got a whole lab environment with some computers in it that all have PowerShell on them. Two, I put PowerShell Empire and Starkiller in there. It is a free and open source C2 platform with a bunch of built-in capabilities that will pretty much all fall on the whole MITRE ATT&CK bingo card wherever you need them. And that's what you guys will be using tonight to play. So, things to consider. I'll let you look at that real fast. I'm not regurgitating down through this whole list of stuff. Just know the deeper you get into this, a lot more money is going into it. If you're using free and open source payloads, stagers, things like that, the barrier to entry is low. It costs you nothing to use them, but the realism and effectiveness of them really isn't there. So if you think about even paid commercial C2s right now, Cobalt Strike is heavily signatured. I think Nighthawk is probably the only one that's really not, but give it time. It kind of becomes an arms race of obfuscation compared to utilization. As these tools are used more, all of these AVs, EDR vendors, they're signaturing because they don't want to be that company that got beat by the new C2 that's out, right? I know that was a big thing. Was it SentinelOne just a few months back was like losing their mind over Sliver, talking about them and being able to bypass them. Then there was an evasion company too that says we make payloads that get past X and X EDR. Well, then all of a sudden they just started getting dumped on because now they're fighting that game, right? They're playing with people's money. So that can get a little weird. For you guys, you don't really have to worry about much of this because all of that's covered by Starkiller and Empire in this lab. Moving on. If none of that stuck over the last 20 minutes, I'll leave it at this. Just keeping it simple is the best place to start. You can start small, single host, just opening a shell, running some commands, seeing if your logging's even working, then seeing if your actual defenders are seeing anything from what you're doing, then getting into more and more advanced emulation scenarios over time. What that's going to do is, one, you're getting a good proof of concept, low barrier to entry, and you're showing you can be trusted. That is the biggest piece here. You're showing you can be trusted in their environment not to break stuff. Over time, as that trust grows, your ability to perform these campaigns to expose more and more of the organization, maybe different business silos, things like that, to the overall plan will increase, right? So that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is trust within the organization or within your customers. If they don't trust you, they're not letting you do anything. Always try to build that trust. And you don't have to be an APT overnight. You don't need to be creating your own fancy payloads and ransomware and doing that kind of stuff if you're in a new fledgling team that doesn't even have basic logging in place. Because what does that matter? You're not going to see it. Why are you wasting your time? You want to keep the level of your campaigns and what you're trying to do at a level that's kind of equal to where you are as an organization. It's okay to jump that line every now and then and be like, hey, we got kind of good at seeing these things, but what happens if I obfuscate it? Or if I change the way I'm doing it? Those kind of things will raise that bar in sophistication for you, but also make your team better. Those small incremental jumps are good. You going from I'm just running commands in shell to I'm running BOFs is not helpful. It's not going to do anything for your organization. The little pictures over here on the side, just kind of examples to prove my point. You don't need a fancy C2 if you've got access to shell. Go ahead and start a new socket. Boom. You've got comms. When it comes to performing commands, this little blurb, I didn't make this up. This came right out of some CTI. If the threat actors are keeping it simple and they're doing host discovery in the environment by running ARP, why can't you? Makes sense, right? You don't need to have some kind of fancy BOF or payload that does this. You could just type ARP into the shell and get the same effect. And now you're doing threat emulation. Look at that. You're an APT keeping it simple. So, a few more things to think about. I think I'm actually close to the end of this slideshow. if there's tools that are available that you guys are seeing in that CTI, go ahead and use them. I'm sure in one of the ones I gave you, somebody mentioned something like Mimikatz, or they mentioned PS Exec, or they mentioned MSTSC, remote desktop, things like that. All of those tools are free, they are trusted, they're heavily scrutinized, so you can utilize those things. The threat's using it, you should as well in your emulation campaigns. If it doesn't exist, or you don't have access to it, or it's something they created that is very much not safe and hasn't been on GitHub and scrutinized by the whole internet, don't, right? Don't go buy a payload off the dark web and expect it to work exactly like you want and only call back to you, because that's definitely not what's going to happen. Talked a little bit about this earlier, I'll kind of repeat it again. Varying your techniques. It's cool if you're going to say, I'm going to do local enumeration using net commands and drill that over a couple campaigns or a couple tries at this. That's fine. As your team starts catching on, your defenders can spot it quickly. They've got alerts that are bubbling to the top. They're on top of it. Go ahead and change it up, right? Vary the way you perform your behaviors over time, even if it's not necessarily in line with that threat actor. In the end, it's going to make your team better, because now they're going to realize, oh, you can use net commands, but you can also use PowerShell commandlets, or you can use these other tools like PowerSploit, which has been deprecated for, I don't know, like a decade now, but still kind of technically works. And you can grow their sophistication level as defenders as your skills grow. Yes.
So when does that change the value in what you're selling from I'm emulating this specific threat to, okay, I'm much better than APT whatever, and now I'm going to make you guys good enough to detect that? Is there like a balance, or does that become scope creep?
It's not, I wouldn't consider it scope creep, because we're not changing what we're affecting. We're not changing the overall rules of the engagement. I'm changing how I'm performing a specific approved behavior. The kind of benefit there is over time, once you start catching all of that stuff, you already kind of know you're going to catch it, you're going to see it. You got to give your team a little more, otherwise this kind of becomes pointless in the normal rodeo where they're multitasking and doing something else and no longer paying attention to what you're doing. There's no wrong answer to deviating as long as there's benefit in your team seeing it. If you're deviating for the sake of deviating because you're tired of getting caught, that's when I would consider it a problem. That make sense?
So with these deviations, it's for repeat customers that have already...
Yeah, I'm typically going to do that with someone that, like, I've set a baseline, I know where they're at, what they can kind of detect, what they can't, and that's me diverging from that specific threat-focused scenario more now into just general, like, adversarial validation. Can you see these behaviors? Not can you spot APT41 doing this? It's broadening the scope for both of us, but it's also, there's more value in it, right? But you can't get to seeing all of this until you actually understand this first. So that's how I look at that. I won't run 5 million different variants of something against an organization unless I'm explicitly asked from Go. I usually will typically try to set a foundation and build over time in sophistication and in the kind of tools and capabilities I'm using. So how are you guys going to do it? Empire, cool, it's there. It's got all the fancy stuff you need in it. It runs scripts. It runs its own modules that run other kinds of tools. You can use BOFs. It does C2 comms. It does a little bit of obfuscation. All the fun stuff is built in, and it's there for you guys to use. Next slide. So take action. Now it's time to do it. You heard me say all of these already. I'm not going to repeat myself for a third time. Quote from someone totally not famous. Don't get so distracted trying to emulate the threat that you forget to be one yourself. Now what this said person here is trying to say is no one knows your organization better than you. This goes back to that emulation versus simulation thing, right? If you know there's a glaring issue, there's something you want addressed, we've already established it's okay to diverge a little bit for the greater good, or if you have to. If you know there's a problem over here, like someone's logging in with domain admins, or they're hiding some creds in an open share somewhere, they're doing something, one, you know is bad, two, you know is going to get you wrecked if it's found, why not put that into one of your campaigns? You can deviate or ask to insert that, right? You're not doing this in a vacuum by yourself. There's going to be a whole group that you're collaborating and coordinating with. Be like, hey, I have this really cool idea. I think I've seen a problem. I want to validate it. And then boom, you show, hey, there's this glaring issue. If someone gets to here, we're inadvertently leaking PII, or we've got administrative creds floating in an open share. There's problems. That's easy ammo to fix the problem, right? That's a win for you. That's a win for the company. And it really didn't cost you anything extra. So that's where my kind of mindset, my thinking is with this. No one knows your org better than you. Stop trying to always emulate those threats and be one yourself. How would you attack your organization? Kind of have that mindset, right? What would you go after if you were trying to get in? That should take us to lab. I've got like 2 more slides after this, but they're basically tips and tricks and a regurgitation of resources. So from here, we're going to get into the last, I think it's like 2 subsections of the hands-on piece for the rest of the night. Let me escape out. Come over here. So we're going to work on executing our plan this chapter. Within here, it's just a quick breakdown of what to expect. This is the steps you'll utilize for like actually accessing Starkiller in this environment, how you would build out your stagers and your listeners, your implants, all that fun stuff, and launch them against the endpoint. Your target is going to be the actual Windows endpoint you're currently sitting on and accessing Empire from. Crazy, right? So there is a domain in this environment, but the easy first step is just target the host you're on. From there, if you want to experiment and play around and move, feel free to go ahead. There should be, I think, 1 or 2 other hosts and a domain controller, and I think there's an Ubuntu server floating. They're there to break if you want, but I would recommend starting small. From there, the using built-in capabilities, that'll walk you through all of the different modules that Empire and Starkiller has, kind of show you how some of them work. It'll talk about beacon object files and how useful those are. I kind of love BOFs personally. They're a very sneaky way of doing things, but it's a more kind of advanced capability. And then we'll talk about script execution in Starkiller. You have a couple different ways of doing it. From there, the last independent practice piece is supposed to be you guys taking all of that sweet actionable intelligence that you gathered earlier and putting it to use, making an actual campaign, running those behaviors against the endpoint, and kind of seeing what that looks like from Empire and Starkiller perspective. If you want to get froggy, these endpoints do have sysmon and other things set up. Under that bonus section, there should be some info about Splunk in the environment. You can go dive into the Splunk instance and kind of look and hunt and see if you can notice these behaviors that you're executing. Sound good? All right. Obviously, I will be around the rest of the time as you guys are stepping through that. If you run into issues or have problems with any of the hands-on portion, just let me know. Or ask your neighbor next to you. Odds are they might know, or they might be stuck where you are. Okay? Have fun. I can demo some of it for you guys later as we go through it if you have specific questions, but I'm not going to run through the whole lab. That'll eat up a good chunk of time for you guys just watching me do it. I would say from this point on, Chris, we can cut the stream, because all it is I might show one more thing on the screen, but it's hands-on from here. For all of you guys watching from home, thank
It's time to say goodbye.